Daylight had rules. It stayed where it was told. It revealed what it touched. It let you pretend that the world was continuous, that yesterday connected to today, that cities did not simply stop. At dawn, Lila Ortiz stood at the kitchen window and counted the minutes until the sun fully cleared the roofs across the street. The neighborhood looked ordinary in the early light: cracked sidewalks, a dormant ice cream truck, a row of mailboxes dented by time. She did not trust ordinary. She trusted the clock. Behind her, the radio murmured a local history segment, the host's voice smooth and academic. Another unresolved disappearance. Archaeologists continue to debate whether environmental collapse or sudden migration explains. Lila switched it off. The silence that followed had weight. Silence, she had learned, was never empty. Her sister Mara slept on the couch, knees drawn up, face pale in the blue shade before morning. Mara's dreams were violent. Her sleep was not rest but a holding pattern. Lila watched her chest rise and fall and felt the familiar surge of relief when the sunlight finally reached the living room rug, turning the dust into floating sparks. "Up," Lila said softly. Mara's eyes snapped open. It was always like that, no confusion, no groggy delay. Fear had tuned her into an instrument that never went out of key. "Is it up?" "Yes." "Fully." Mara sat, rubbed her face, then looked to the window as if confirming the sun's authority. Only then did her shoulders drop. "I dreamed about the Salt City again," she said. "Eat first," Lila replied. "Then tell me." They moved through the morning ritual with precision, blinds open, lights off, doors checked. Lila taped the blackout curtains into a neat fold so no shadow pooled where it shouldn't. Mara made coffee strong enough to bite. The rules were not superstition. They were data. Outside, the world pretended nothing was wrong. Cars passed. A dog barked. A neighbor watered dead grass. The city had learned, as cities do, to step around the holes without looking down. Mara spoke into her mug. They weren't ruins this time. They were new. Lila paused. New how? Clean. Like they'd just been finished and then abandoned in the same breath. Mara swallowed. No bodies. No signs of leaving. Just streets that ended in darkness, like the night had wait. Lila forced herself to breathe. Dreams change. Patterns don't, Mara said. She glanced toward the hallway, toward the bedroom that had once belonged to their parents. "I heard voices." "That's not new either." "Not whispers," Mara said. "Calling. Using names." Lila did not ask whose. By noon, they were out. Errands timed to the sun's arc. Grocery stores were safe, bright, crowded, loud. Light fractured fear into manageable pieces. Lila kept her phone camera on, recording as a habit she couldn't break. Evidence, she told herself. Or a talisman. In the history aisle, a glossy book caught Mara's eye. Vanished Civilizations, The Night Hypothesis. The cover showed a city swallowed by shadow, the title embossed like a warning label. "Don't," Lila said. Mara picked it up anyway, thumb brushing the edge. "It's everywhere now." "I know." They left without buying it. Back home, the afternoon thinned. Sunlight angled, became amber, then pale. Lila watched the shadows lengthen, measuring their reach against the furniture. At 4:30, she started the generator. At 5, she locked the doors. At 5:30, she checked the basement stairs and taped the gap beneath the door. "Do you remember Abuela's stories?" Mara asked, sitting cross-legged on the floor. "Yes. She said the night learned us. That once it knew your shape, it could wear you." "Folklore," Lila said, too quickly. Mara smiled without humor. "So is history, until it isn't." At 6:15, the sky bruised. Clouds rolled in from nowhere, thick as wool. The streetlights flickered on early, buzzing like insects trapped in glass. Lila's phone chimed with an emergency alert that said nothing useful. Power fluctuations reported. Remain indoors. They remained. At 6:30, the first sound came. Not a crash. Not a scream. A pressure, like ears popping, followed by a low note that vibrated the cabinets. The lights dimmed, surged, then steadied. Mara's hand found Lila's. It's early. I know. They sat on the floor, backs to the couch, facing the window. Outside, the streetlight's halo seemed thinner. As if the darkness around it drank more than it should. A figure moved at the edge of the light. No, not a figure. An absence shaped like one. Lila raised her phone, heart hammering. The camera showed nothing. The street looked normal, flat, harmless. She lowered the phone and saw the absence again, closer now, pressing against the boundary of light like a hand on glass. Names, Mara whispered. They're using names. Lila heard it then. A chorus, distant but intimate, speaking with the voices of people who had never been recorded missing because there was no one left to report them. The sound was not sound, it was recognition. The streetlight went out. Darkness did not fall. It arrived, complete and deliberate, as if summoned by an ancient schedule. Lila slammed the blinds, sealing them shut, heart racing. In the black, something moved with certainty, mapping the rooms, learning their edges. Daylight had rules. Night had memory. Night did not behave like an absence of light. It behaved like a substance, viscous, deliberate, patient. When the blinds were sealed and the last line of daylight died behind taped seams, the apartment did not become dark all at once. Darkness accumulated, pooling in corners, thickening along the ceiling, pressing downward as if gravity itself had changed its mind. Lila counted her breaths. 4 in. 4 out. The generator hummed beneath the floor, steady but strained, like an animal pretending not to be afraid. Mara sat rigid beside her, eyes fixed on the hallway. It's inside the building, she said. Lila did not ask how she knew. Mara's certainty was never speculative. It arrived fully formed, like memory surfacing without permission. You don't know that, Lila said, though her voice lacked conviction. Yes, Mara replied. I do. They listened. The night made no sound of entry. No footfalls. No creak of doors. Instead, the apartment seemed to rearrange itself subtly, walls lengthening, distances stretching just enough to feel wrong. The hallway appeared deeper than it should have been, the darkness within it layered, stratified, as if it had sediment. Lila flicked on a lantern. The cone of light cut cleanly through the living room, stopping short of the hallway's mouth. It did not reach the far wall. That's not possible, Lila said. Nothing about it is, Mara answered. A voice spoke from the dark. It was not loud. It did not echo. It used Lila's name the way a hand uses a key, gently, with familiarity. Don't respond, Lila whispered, though her throat tightened around the words. The voice shifted. It became their mother's voice, warm and tired, carrying the echo of 1,000 ordinary evenings. Girls. Why is it so dark? Mara pressed her palms over her ears, but the sound did not diminish. It bypassed hearing altogether. It bloomed directly in the mind. Lila stood, legs trembling. That's not her, she said, to Mara or to herself. That's not how memory works. From the hallway came movement, not forward, but sideways, like something testing dimensions. The darkness rippled, forming a contour that suggested shoulders, a head, the implication of a face that never resolved. Civilizations didn't disappear, Mara said suddenly. They were edited. Lila turned to her. What? They didn't leave ruins because ruins are records. They didn't die because bodies are evidence. Mara's voice was calm now, unnervingly precise. They were removed from the day. The lantern flickered. Images pressed against Lila's thoughts, cities she had seen only in textbooks, the Indus Valley, the Maya, the ancestral Puebloans. Streets frozen mid-purpose. Tools abandoned mid-use. The unanswered question that historians circled like mourners unwilling to name the dead. The voice spoke again, closer. We remember you. The floor vibrated softly, as if something enormous had shifted its weight elsewhere in the building. From outside came a sound like wind moving through empty streets, except there was no wind. Mara rose to her feet. It learns faster now, she said. There are fewer places left that belong to the sun. Lila grabbed her arm. Sit down. Mara did not. She stepped toward the hallway, lantern held high. The light pushed forward another inch, then stalled, as if resisted by pressure. Don't, Lila said, panic sharpening her voice. It wants to be known, Mara finished. Yes. The darkness reacted. It swelled, contour sharpening into something almost human. Almost. The suggestion of eyes opened where eyes should not have been, not reflecting light but consuming it. Mara spoke, voice steady. You're not night, she said. You're what survives when night finishes. The thing paused. In that pause, Lila understood something fundamental and horrifying. This was not a predator. Predators hunt. This was a process. The thing moved, not closer, but broader. The walls groaned softly as space surrendered. The voice multiplied, layering names. Dates, half-remembered songs. Lila felt herself thinning, thoughts blurring at the edges, as if attention itself were being siphoned away. She slapped the emergency flare against the floor. White light exploded, violent and absolute. The room screamed with brightness. Shadows recoiled, tearing backward like fabric ripped from a nail. The thing convulsed, not in pain, but in rejection. The flare burned with unnatural intensity, flooding the apartment in harsh daylight imitation. For a moment, everything was flat, exposed, real. Then the flare dimmed. The darkness surged back, angrier now, reorganized. From the ceiling came a new sound, a wet, deliberate cracking. The smoke detector shattered, falling in pieces. Darkness spilled from the hole like blood. Mara staggered back. It's not just one. No, Lila whispered. It's a system. The voice returned, no longer pretending to be familiar. It was vast now, layered with the weight of centuries. Day is ending, it said. You are late. Outside, something massive passed over the building, blotting out even the memory of the sky. Lila pulled Mara close as the darkness pressed inward from all sides, compressing the apartment into a shrinking island of failing light. Somewhere, far above the city, the sun still existed. But it no longer mattered. Time fractured after the flare died. Minutes lost their edges, stretching or collapsing without warning. Lila marked it by sensation instead, the ache in her jaw from clenching, the slow burn in her lungs from shallow breaths, the way the darkness seemed to press against her skin like cold water. The generator failed with a cough and a whine. Silence followed, total, engineered. Even the distant city noise vanished, as though the world outside had been muted or erased. The lantern dimmed to a sickly amber, then steadied, its battery indicator blinking an indifferent red. Mara laughed once, sharp and humorless. It doesn't like machines, she said. They're too honest. Quiet, Lila whispered. But the night had already found new ways in. From the ceiling hole left by the smoke detector, darkness dripped, not falling, but extending, elongating itself like a limb grown from shadow. It touched the air and spread, thin at first, then thickening, mapping the room with patient intent. Lila felt something brush her ankle. She kicked instinctively. Her foot met resistance, not solid, not liquid, but dense, like pushing against memory itself. The sensation sent a spike of nausea through her. Mara gasped. It's counting us. What does that mean? It's checking if we're continuous. The word echoed wrong. The voices returned, but now they spoke in fragments. Street names. Calendar dates. Census questions. Lila's head filled with bureaucratic debris, records of existence stripped of context. She saw files closing, ink drying, boxes labeled and shelved. They catalogued whole cities, Mara said softly, eyes unfocused. That's why there's nothing left. You can't mourn what you can't remember clearly. The darkness surged again. The lantern flickered, and in that brief instability, the apartment changed. The hallway was no longer a hallway. It widened into a corridor that receded impossibly far, lined with doorways that had never existed. Each door was slightly open, leaking. Darkness deeper than the space around it. Lila's stomach dropped. That's not our apartment. No, Mara agreed. It's a junction. From one of the doors came a sound like breathing, but too synchronized, too regular. Another door exhaled. Another. The building was breathing, or pretending to. A figure stepped into the corridor. It wore the outline of a person the way clothing wears a hanger. Too tall. Too narrow. Its surface shifted constantly, faces pressing outward and dissolving again. Men, women, children, entire expressions erased before they could settle. Lila recognized one. Her own face stared back at her from the thing's shoulder, mouth open in silent realization. Mara screamed. The sound did not travel. It was absorbed instantly, leaving behind a pressure wave that rattled Lila's teeth. The thing tilted its head. When it spoke, it used many voices at once. You persist, it said. You are inefficient. Lila raised the lantern, hands shaking. We're alive. The thing paused, as if consulting an internal index. Temporary, it replied. The corridor doors began to open wider. Inside them were places that should not have coexisted, a stone city swallowed by jungle, a coastal town frozen mid-evacuation, a modern office floor abandoned with computers still glowing. No bodies. No damage. Just absence curated with precision. Those are the missing, Mara said, voice hoarse. All of them. They are preserved, the thing corrected. Night keeps what day abandons. Lila felt the weight of it then, the scale. This was not a haunting. It was an archival process operating across centuries, patient beyond comprehension. Why us? She demanded. The thing stepped closer. The air grew colder, heavier. You noticed, it said. You learned the rules. Awareness creates residue. Mara straightened. Daylight protects us. A ripple of something like amusement passed through the thing. Daylight delays, it said. It does not protect. The lantern died. Darkness snapped into place, absolute and crushing. Lila felt hands, not hands, impressions, gripping her arms, her shoulders, her thoughts. Images flashed, childhood mornings, faces of strangers, the feel of sun on pavement. Each memory was examined, weighed. Catalogued. Mara shouted Lila's name, distant already. No, Lila said, fighting the pull. No. Light erupted. Not white this time. Gold. It poured through the corridor like a flood, tearing the darkness backward. The doors slammed shut one by one. The thing recoiled, surface destabilizing, faces screaming silently as they were torn away. Mara stood in the center of the living room, eyes blazing, skin illuminated from within as if lit by a hidden sun. I remembered, she said. The light surged, forcing the darkness back into the ceiling, the hallway collapsing into its original dimensions with a sound like bones snapping into place. The thing dissolved, retreating through the cracks it had made. The light vanished. Mara collapsed. Lila caught her before she hit the floor, heart racing. The apartment was ruined, walls scarred, ceiling cracked, but it was real again. Small. Finite. Daylight bled faintly through the taped seams of the blinds. Morning. Mara's eyes fluttered open. She looked exhausted, older somehow. It knows us now, she whispered. Lila held her tighter, staring at the weak but undeniable light. Then we make it forget. Outside, sirens wailed, distant, frantic, multiplying. Somewhere else in the city, something had not survived the night. Morning did not bring relief. It brought accounting. Sirens threaded the air outside like exposed nerves, rising and falling without rhythm. From the window, Lila watched emergency vehicles crawl through the street below, stopping too often, staying too long. Paramedics stood in small clusters, hands on hips, staring at buildings that looked intact but wrong, windows darkened from the inside, doors closed as if by habit rather than choice. Mara slept fitfully on the couch, her breathing shallow, skin warm with a fever that came and went. The gold light was gone, leaving behind no mark except exhaustion and a faint tremor in her hands. Lila had checked her pupils twice, counted her breaths more times than she could remember. You burned, Lila murmured, brushing damp hair from Mara's forehead. Whatever you did, it cost you. Mara did not wake. The radio crackled back to life sometime after 8, cycling through emergency broadcasts. The language was careful, sanitized. Localized incidents of mass disorientation, multiple reports of unoccupied residences, no evidence of forced entry. Lila turned it off again. She did not need euphemisms. She had seen the corridor. At 9, there was a knock. Lila froze. Daylight streamed through the cracks in the blinds, bright and insistent. Daylight had rules. People belonged to it. She approached the door slowly, checking the peephole. 2 city officials stood in the hall, 1 police officer, 1 woman with a clipboard and a badge that read Department of Urban Continuity. The name made Lila's stomach tighten. She did not open the door. Ms. Ortiz, the woman called, voice calm, practiced. We're conducting a routine wellness check. Routine. The word landed like a threat. Lila spoke through the door. We're fine. There was a pause. Papers shifted. Your building reported a structural anomaly overnight. No anomaly here. The officer leaned closer to the door. Ma'am, several apartments on this floor are empty. Silence. Stretched. Lila imagined the corridor again, doors opening onto preserved absence. We're not opening the door, Lila said. Another pause. Then the woman spoke, quieter now. You should know, she said, that in previous cases, residents who refused assistance experienced recurrence. Lila's grip tightened on the doorknob. Recurrence of what? Night events, the woman replied. They tend to escalate. Lila felt the shape of the truth then, not as revelation, but confirmation. The city knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. Enough to build departments around it. Enough to normalize survival. Go away, Lila said. Footsteps retreated. The hall fell quiet. Mara stirred an hour later. Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first. When they found Lila, something like shame passed through them. I shouldn't have done that, Mara said. You saved us. For now. Mara pushed herself upright, wincing. It took something. I can't remember, she stopped, brow furrowing. I can't remember Dad's voice. The words hit Lila harder than any scream. Mara pressed her fingers to her temples. I know facts. I know he laughed too loud. I know he smelled like engine oil. But the sound of him? She shook her head. Gone. Lila swallowed. That's how it feeds. No, Mara corrected. That's how it's paid. They spent the afternoon watching the street. By 3, news helicopters circled overhead. Social media, still functional, still pretending, filled with videos. People standing in living rooms calling names that never answered, drone footage of neighborhoods with cars parked and doors open and no movement anywhere. A term began to trend by evening. Selective nightfall. Experts debated causes. Atmospheric anomalies. Psychological contagion. Infrastructure failure. No one said what everyone felt, that night was choosing. As the sun sank, Lila began reinforcing the apartment again. More tape, more light sources, reflective surfaces scavenged from the bathroom and kitchen. She worked with a focus that bordered on prayer. Mara watched her. It won't matter. It always matters. Lila, Mara said gently, it knows us. I looked at it. I named it. You didn't name it. I named myself, Mara replied. That's worse. Dusk thickened. The sirens stopped. The first sound of night was different this time. Not pressure. Not vibration. Language. The building spoke. Not aloud, not exactly, but through resonance. Through the shared spaces of walls and floors. Lila felt it in her bones, a synchronized awareness moving through the structure like a pulse. Mara stiffened. It's not hunting tonight. What is it doing? Collecting what was left behind. The streetlights flickered on. Their halos thinned immediately. Across the street, an apartment window glowed briefly, then went dark. Another followed. Then another, like a constellation blinking out of existence. Lila tasted copper. They didn't notice. No, Mara said. They trusted the hour. A shape formed outside the blinds, not pressing, not forcing. Waiting. Patient. From it came no voices. That was worse. Mara took Lila's hand. If we stay, she said, it will take pieces of us until there's nothing left that connects. That's how civilizations end. Not with death. With disassembly. Lila closed her eyes, felt the last warmth of day leave the room. And if we leave? Mara looked toward the door, toward the hallway, toward the city beyond. Then we risk becoming visible somewhere new. Outside, the last streetlight went out. Night did not arrive. It unfolded. They left before full dark, during the thin, treacherous interval when the sun had set but night had not yet sealed itself. The city called it twilight. Mara called it the overlap. Movement confuses it, she said, voice low as they descended the stairwell. Stasis is easier to index. The stairwell smelled of dust and old paint. 3 doors on their floor stood open. Lila did not look inside them. She did not need to. Absence had a smell. Flat, airless, like rooms that had forgotten how to echo. Outside, the sky was bruised violet. The street felt wider than it should have been, distances stretched as if perspective itself had loosened. Cars sat abandoned with engines cold, doors ajar, hazards blinking uselessly into nothing. Lila carried the backpack. Light sources, batteries, reflective tape, flares. Tools against a phenomenon that treated tools as suggestions. Where are we going? She asked. Mara hesitated. West. Toward the river. Why? Because it doesn't like edges, Mara said. Edges resist categorization. They walked quickly, avoiding pools of shadow that pooled unnaturally at the bases of buildings. The city was quieter than silence, no insects, no wind, no distant sirens now. Even their footsteps seemed reluctant to make sound. As they passed a bus stop, Lila noticed the advertisement panel glowing faintly. A face stared out, smiling, generic. Then the smile slid off, leaving a blank oval where features should have been. "Don't look," Mara said. Lila didn't. She felt the gaze anyway, cataloging. At the intersection of 9th and Mercer, the world hiccuped. Not a sound. A skip. The street ahead of them elongated, the far end dissolving into a haze that looked like heat shimmer but felt cold. Buildings repeated, not identically but insistently, like variations on a theme. A coffee shop appeared twice, then 3 times, each version slightly less detailed than the last. "We crossed," Mara said. "This isn't the same block." Lila's heart pounded. Back. They turned. The intersection behind them was gone, replaced by a narrow alley that smelled of damp stone and old paper. "This is what it does," Mara said. "It remaps geography around attention. Cities aren't fixed at night, they're probabilistic." "Say that again like it's comforting." Mara almost smiled. "I can't." A sound carried down the street, a rolling murmur, like a crowd heard through walls. Lila felt it vibrate in her sternum. The murmur resolved into words she could not understand but somehow recognized as administrative. "They're closing sections," Mara said. "Whole neighborhoods at once. It's faster now." A figure stood at the far end of the street. Human-shaped. Still. As they watched, another appeared beside it. Then another. Not approaching. Marking. Lila's phone buzzed. No signal bars. A single message appeared, sender unknown. "You are here." The map that followed was wrong. Streets mislabeled. Landmarks erased. The river was a blank strip, as if water itself had been redacted. Lila threw the phone into the gutter. They cut through a parking garage, lights flickering overhead. On the second level, they found a car idling, door open, radio murmuring static. A wallet lay on the hood, neatly placed. Mara stopped. "This is bait." Lila nodded. They moved past it. On the third level, they found writing on the wall, scratched deep into concrete. "Day is not a place." Below it, another line, smaller, frantic. "Remember each other." Mara traced the letters with shaking fingers. "People figure it out," she said. Too late, but they figure it out. At the garage's far exit, the river appeared, black, slow, reflecting no sky. The bridge loomed ahead, its lamps glowing weakly, halos thinning. Halfway across, Mara slowed. "It's stronger over water." "Then why here?" "Because water remembers movement," Mara said. "It resists being fixed." The murmur rose behind them, swelling into a layered presence. Lila felt eyes without faces turned toward her, felt the pressure of being counted. A shape unfolded on the bridge ahead, not blocking it, but redefining it. The distance between lamps stretched. The far shore receded. "It's cutting the crossing," Lila said. Mara nodded. "Then we don't cross." She climbed the railing. "Mara. Trust me." Mara stepped down onto the maintenance ledge below the bridge, fingers finding rusted handholds. The river breathed beneath them, cold and endless. The murmur crescendoed. The air thickened, compressing thought. Lila followed, muscles burning, every instinct screaming to cling to the known path. Halfway along the ledge, Mara stopped. Her breathing hitched. "What?" Lila whispered. Mara pressed a hand to her chest. "It's taking more." "What is?" "My continuity," Mara said. If I keep using what I used last night, I won't, she swallowed. I won't finish. Lila felt panic spike. Then stop. If I stop, Mara said, we don't make it. The darkness above them pooled, coalescing into a vast, faceless attention. Not chasing. Finalizing. Mara looked at Lila, eyes clear and unbearably calm. Listen to me. Daylight isn't light. It's relation. As long as one of us is anchored, really anchored, the other can persist. No, Lila said. We stay together. Mara smiled, small and fierce. That's the lie Night wants. She closed her eyes. The river flared gold. Not bright, dense. It surged outward from Mara, a wave of remembered motion, of tides and currents and all the ways water refused to stay put. The bridge groaned as space buckled. The darkness recoiled, its murmur collapsing into static. Lila screamed Mara's name as the ledge shook. When the light faded, the river was dark again. The bridge was intact. Mara was gone. Lila clung to the cold metal, breath tearing from her lungs. Above, the city resumed its careful quiet. On the far shore, dawn broke. Not warm, not kind, but real. Lila climbed, shaking, into the thin safety of day. Behind her, the river flowed on, carrying what night could not keep. Morning did not feel earned. Lila sat on the riverbank with her shoes in her hands and mud on her knees, staring at water that refused to explain itself. Dawn spread thinly across the city, pale and exhausted, as if it, too, had survived something and would rather not talk about it. Mara's absence was not a hole. It was a pressure. Lila felt it everywhere, behind her eyes, beneath her skin, inside the simple act of breathing. The world had not taken Mara cleanly. It had left residue, an outline only Lila seemed able to perceive. When she stood, she caught herself turning to speak, expecting an answer that no longer existed in sound. Sirens returned with the sun. Not frantic now. Administrative. Crews arrived at the bridge, yellow tape fluttering, officials pointing at nothing in particular. Lila watched them work around the space where Mara had been, their movements unconsciously avoiding it. No one asked Lila questions. That should have frightened her. Instead, it confirmed what she already knew. She walked. The city by day looked wounded but functional. Coffee shops reopened. Buses ran with altered routes. News tickers spoke of temporary evacuations and containment zones. Words arranged to imply control. Every few blocks, Lila passed buildings that felt wrong, too quiet, too complete in their emptiness. Windows intact. Trash uncollected. A child's shoe in the middle of the sidewalk, clean and carefully placed. Preserved. At noon, Lila reached the public library. It was open. Libraries were stubborn structures, designed around memory and redundancy. If anything resisted erasure, it would be a place built to hold versions of the same truth. Inside, the air smelled of paper and disinfectant. Light streamed through tall windows. People sat at tables pretending to read, their eyes skimming lines without absorbing them. Lila went to the history section. Books had been moved. Reclassified. Entire shelves bore new labels, discontinued settlements, unverified events, night. Related phenomena, theoretical. She pulled one at random. The pages were wrong. Not blank, edited. Paragraphs ended mid-sentence. Footnotes referenced sources that no longer existed. Maps showed cities without names, streets without scale. This is happening fast, a voice said beside her. Lila turned. A woman stood there, early 40s, hair pulled back tight, eyes sharp in the way of someone who had slept very little but thought very clearly. She wore a city badge, different from the one at Lila's door the night before. You can see it, the woman said. Yes. Good. Then I don't have to lie. She held out her hand. Dr. Ellen Shaw. Urban Memory Division. Of course there is, Lila said. Ellen did not smile. You were in a night event. Yes. You survived. No, Lila said. I continued. Ellen studied her for a long moment. Your sister. Lila's jaw tightened. You know. We track discontinuities, Ellen said quietly. When one anchor disappears and another persists, it creates signal. Like residue, Lila said. Ellen nodded. Exactly. They moved to a small office at the back of the library, its windows blacked out from the inside. Ellen turned on a desk lamp. The light felt surgical. We think night is a corrective system, Ellen said. Not sentient in the way we understand, but purposeful. It removes complexity that exceeds some threshold. Civilizations, Lila said. And individuals who destabilize the pattern, Ellen replied. People who notice. People who remember too well. Lila thought of Mara standing in gold light, burning memory like fuel. It charges for resistance. Yes. Can it be stopped? Ellen hesitated. That hesitation was answer enough. Delayed, she said. Redirected. Made less efficient. How? By anchoring continuity, Ellen said. By making memory relational again. Not records. Not data. People. Lila laughed softly. That's not a plan. That's a hope. Ellen leaned forward. Hope is structurally unpredictable. Night hates that. A tremor ran through the building. Not strong. Just enough to feel. Ellen stiffened. Tonight, she said. It will test the river boundary again. It doesn't like unfinished work. Lila stood. Then it's coming for me. Yes. Good. Ellen frowned. That's not bravery. No, Lila agreed. It's debt. She left the library before Ellen could stop her. By late afternoon, clouds gathered low and heavy. The city dimmed prematurely. Lila returned to the bridge, standing at the railing where Mara had vanished. She closed her eyes. She did not try to summon light. She did not call out. She remembered. Mara at 6, insisting shadows couldn't cross chalk lines. Mara at 16, memorizing maps for fun. Mara last night, calm and burning and unbearably certain. The air thickened. Darkness gathered, not all at once, but attentively. You remain, the layered voice said, not from one place but from the geometry itself. Yes, Lila said. Her voice shook, but she did not stop. And I remember. Pressure built, testing her edges, probing for weakness. She felt memories tugged, assessed. She held on to one thing. Connection. Not light. Not defiance. Relation. The darkness recoiled slightly, not retreating, but adjusting. Confused. You are inefficient, it said again. Lila smiled, wet-eyed. So is love. Night pressed closer, vast and inevitable. Above it, unseen but present, the sun continued its useless journey. And for the first time, night hesitated. Night arrived without ceremony. No pressure wave. No voices calling names. No administrative murmur. It came the way inevitabilities do, quietly, as if it had always been there and merely waited for attention to shift. Lila stood on the bridge as the last measurable light drained from the sky. The river below moved steadily, indifferent to scale or consequence. Water had no loyalty to memory. It carried without keeping. Behind her, the city dimmed. Not all at once. Selectively. Windows went dark in patterns that suggested intention. Entire floors vanished while others remained lit, islands of denial floating in a sea that was learning how to close. The darkness gathered again, not as a mass, but as a structure. Space tightened. Distances simplified. The bridge shortened, the river narrowed, the world compressing into something manageable. "You persist," the voice said. It was not layered now. It was singular. Focused. "I do," Lila answered. "You are alone." "No," she said. "I am connected." The darkness shifted. Not anger. Not confusion. Evaluation. "You are inefficient," it repeated, but the certainty had drained from the words. Lila felt the pressure return, heavier than before. Memories surfaced, not torn away, but examined. Childhood rooms. Voices. Smells. The texture of days. The night tested each one, searching for isolation. There was none. Every memory braided outward, touching another person, another moment. Mara's laugh echoed through them all, inseparable. The darkness pressed harder, and the connections tightened instead of breaking. This was not resistance. This was refusal to simplify. "You create noise," Night said. "Yes," Lila replied. "That's what living does." The darkness expanded, filling the bridge, the river, the sky. Lila felt herself reduced in scale, a single point of warmth inside something cosmological and cold. This was how civilizations vanished. Not crushed, but rendered irrelevant. Night prepared to conclude. And then it faltered. Across the river, lights flickered back on, one apartment, then another. A woman stepped onto a balcony, phone in hand, calling a name. A man in a darkened building turned on a lamp and sat beside it, refusing sleep. Somewhere, someone taped their blinds and waited. Small acts. Uncoordinated. Unremarkable. The darkness recoiled by fractions. Not retreating, recalculating. "You are spreading," Night said, and now there was something like caution. "I'm remembering," Lila said. "So are they." The night pressed one last time, immense and absolute. Lila felt her knees buckle. She thought of Mara on the ledge, gold and fading, choosing relation over survival. "I won't stop," Lila whispered. "Even if you take me." Silence followed. Not absence. Consideration. Night did not withdraw. But it did not advance. The bridge held. The river flowed. The city, damaged and diminished, remained. Far away, dawn began its slow, inadequate return. Lila sank to her knees, exhausted beyond measure, but still present. Still connected. Night lingered at the edges of the world, vast and unfinished. For the first time in recorded history, it had failed to complete its work. And somewhere within the dark, something new took shape. Not fear. But uncertainty. And night, which had erased civilizations without hesitation, did not yet know how to survive that.